I remember the name. Jazz Takhar, best in the game. Mamba mentality in his own lane, so better pay attention to what he be saying. Get the message, ain't no question. Giving advice for any investment. Welcome to the broadcast, the Jazz Takhar podcast.
All right, they gave us the thumbs up. That means I can get started with my brother from another mother. I like to call you the prince, but I know you are more like a king of London, Ontario. Mr. Justin Konikow, how you doing today, brother?
I'm well, Jazz. We always talk about Jazz and Justin's treehouse. You literally built one. So thank you for having me.
I didn't even know that one, buddy. I like that. Yes, actually, for the people that don't know about Justin and Jazz's treehouse, we've done a lot of content together. I jump on your podcast. You're going to make sure, and the team's going to make sure they have all your links and all that kind of stuff. But we were talking off air a couple of days ago, and you mentioned that you're coming into Toronto. Yeah. And I said, okay, bro, like, I know we've done a lot of stuff together, but you haven't seen the new studio. I need you to come in. We need to do it in person. But you and I can go off for 7 hours easily on how to build a team, how to shoot content, personal branding, all of that. But I actually think a lot of people make the mistake when it comes to you because they think that's all you know about, you know. For me, I hear it a lot like, yeah, you're the content guy, right? But they think I only speak about personal branding. Sure. What a lot of even close family and friends of ours now, and you know, you tell me if I'm wrong or not, they don't know how much you actually know about real estate, like the market, investing, buying, selling, all the ins and outs. We're coming up the elevator today and you're telling me about all this stuff that's happening in Calgary. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, yeah, man, like let's talk about that on the podcast, right? So we're going to try our best. And I know I'm really bad at it, which is just going off on a bunch of tangents, but I'm hoping that you can kind of keep me honest. I'm going to try to do the same with you. Let's give our viewers and listeners today, and just so you know, by the way, like this full video, shameless plug, it's only found on the app. So for the people that are taking their dog for a walk or on the treadmill right now, to see this handsome man, you have to go download the app in the App Store or the Play Store. Let's really give them like the tips, the tricks, the strategies. You know, you always say the practical and the tactical when it comes to how to make money in real estate in today's market. We're recording November 2022. I'm going to try to get this one out like in this year. And so we know that there's another announcement coming December 7th with the interest rates, but we're just, you know, post an announcement of an increase, what is it, two and a half weeks ago, end of October. So we kind of know where the market is starting to kind of fizzle now and what's happening. So let me start off with number one. What are you hearing and seeing, like, because you got your boots to the ground, not only in London, like all of kind of Southern Ontario, but because you've been doing this for such a long time, I know you got your ears to the rest of the country as well. What's going on, man? Like, what are you hearing when it comes to the market right now?
Yeah, so to speak to the audience in Canada, we've been through 6 rate hikes, and to your point, I spent a lot of time networking internationally. The States is only 4 hikes up right now, so they're lagging behind us in terms of consumer sentiment. And I'm actually getting calls from friends of mine like Glenda Baker in Atlanta and other amazing people saying,
shout out to Glenda. Did you say Glenda Baker?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I missed that girl. Clubhouse, all that. Big shout out to Glenda Baker.
Yeah, she's become a really good friend of mine. And actually, like, when I see pivots in market, I reach out to other experts to see what they're doing. And I did that with you actually back in 2017 when London popped off. I'm like, hey, multiple offers. How did you deal with this for the last 5 years? And then when market shifted, you called me and you're like, hey, so we're not having multiple offers. How's it working?
Hey, how do you sell a home when it's been on the market for like more than a couple of days?
I'm like, here is my 6-month listing plan, because we were very, very used to that. So to answer your question, I spent the last 8 months just diving in and looking at historic data. What happens during corrections? What happens when the market shifts? And how do we change how we're selling? And we changed everything. Everything. We picked up our shovels. We got back boots on the ground. I think the timing of this episode's perfect because we spent the last 5 years building the media side of our company. Now we're zero focused on the real estate side and making sure that we're more well equipped than anybody to advise people on the question you just asked me. In Canada, the sentiment is up until the 6th hike, people were really concerned that there was no end in sight. It seemed like hike after hike after hike, inflation wasn't going down. There was a huge stall out in purchasing over the June, July months. It really started May, but June, July is when it really just screeched to a halt in our market.
Really quickly, June, July, I mean, we generally see kind of a little bit of a slowdown, right? Just in general, we see that anyways, right?
We do, but this was the first palpable, drastic shift we've seen where it was abrupt. Like the amount of showings just stopped. And it was fascinating because some neighborhoods that were well priced and still very popular was still trading. And then other neighborhoods where you were priced very well were getting flooded with listings. And I think there was a lot of emotion that entered the marketplace in that first kind of portion of the adjustment. Where we're at today in November is it's really leveled off because the last rate announcement, the BOC said, we only raised it a half a point. Everybody was expecting 0.75 to a full point, but they said we are seeing the lagging indicators of people not driving as much, starting to work from home, cutting back their grocery bills, really tightening their belts. And we know that the data is going to lag. So we're only going to do a half point now. If we get a good sign in January and December, we're going to continue with the smaller increases and then likely stop in the spring, non-rate announcements for the summertime. So now we have a general end in sight as long as inflation keeps lagging and dropping, which means fall 2023, early 2024, they may be dropping rates again. So I've seen an increase in buyer activity because people are now starting to plan for, well, crap, 12 months is not very far away. Let's get liquid now. Let's decide what we're going to plan. And like Shannon and I are putting offers on stuff because the deals that we want aren't going to exist if it goes back to a seller's market and didn't 3 years ago.
You say Shannon, that's your beautiful,
wife,
beautiful
yes,
wife.
the brains of the organization.
And the beauty too.
Yes,
Let's just make sure we get that across. You said Shannon and I are putting in offers. You mean personally yourself?
Personally, yeah.
Okay, so what are you looking at? I'm curious.
I love buying land. I've
Okay.
always loved buying land. It's super boring. There's no
Yes.
leverage, but there's also zero time that it requires from me. And most of the money we've actually made from very, very passive investments.
So you buy a couple of acres, are we talking? Like, what do you think?
It can be acres. If we know development's happening in an area and
Yeah.
we have some information, then we're investing in that area's future development. We
Okay.
also like buying lots.
Right.
So building lots, I think, are one of the best things that you can do in our market. It's not Toronto, so we're not talking
Yep.
buying entire blocks. But if say you go to Grand Bend, that you have great beach access, then it would make a ton of sense to buy a great lot there for either a future build or to sell to a prospective builder down the road. Right?
I'm going to definitely talk to you about Grand Bend. But talking about land for a second, my perspective on it has always been that if you can't carry that land, if there's no rental income coming in, if there's not a property on it that I can rent out the home and or do some type of farming on it, are you still okay with that? Like as an investor yourself? Because you're like, okay, I'm going to hold this land. I'm going to pay the mortgage on it. I'm going to pay the property taxes on it. There's really no maintenance that's involved, but you're holding on for the long haul that someone else is going to come in and want to redevelop it. Is that kind of the thought process?
There's a few different plays.
Okay.
Most of them are going to be 100% financed, right? So there is no mortgage cost. So keep that in mind. When we're buying land, we are buying it 100%
You are buying it in cash. Okay. I wanted to make sure because
so it's an unleveraged asset.
Okay,
right?
perfect.
You can do it with 50% financing, but we actually buy it on the premise that we're only going to be paying the taxes, which are negligible, right? So we can carry pieces of it's a hard asset, and it's something that I think we have some control over because we have information as to what's happening in a lot of these areas.
Where do you get the information? Not as Justin Konikow, like broker owner of prime real estate, right? Not that guy. I want to talk to Alex and Wei, who have no clue where to get this information from. Where are you getting that information? Where can they get that information?
I would argue you don't even get the information by being a broker.
Got it.
It's getting in your car and driving around and opening up your eyes, right? So if you guys are driving around and you see an area that backs onto water and there's only one like waterfront lot left, that's probably pretty valuable, especially if it's surrounded by $3 million houses, right? So using logic and putting yourself in the seat of the consumers is a good investing strategy for anybody, whether you're buying condos, land, buildings. Like you really want to think about what is this going to be. We drove by Ossington, DuPont, and they're like completely developing DuPont. I didn't even know that was happening. I'm like, and I said to Nico, I'm like, oh, I know what's happening here. I bet you in 5 to 6 years, what this is going to be is what Ossington was when they started, right? So I would encourage people, get in your car. It's fun. It's actually fun to drive around and look at real estate. And that's how we find a lot of our deals.
Well, it's funny, man, because like what we know as King West right now, specifically like in the area of Liberty Village, if you went there, I'm going to say about 15 years ago, 18 years ago, it was like those old Western movies with the tumbleweeds blowing and shit like that. Go there now, Liberty Village has to have, I don't know, like maybe 25 towers there, tons of townhomes, completely developed. It was selling for, back in about 15 years ago, it was selling for probably about $300 to $400 a square foot. Units were. That thing trades now at $1,200.
So when they did that, though, everybody said they were crazy.
100%. They thought I was on crack when I was telling them this is going to go from 300 to 400 to 700 to, like, they were like, no, it's going to stop. And now it's at 1,200. But you were going to say?
Let's make a comparison.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the real estate market versus what you just explained. Everybody right now is, you're crazy to invest in the market right now. Mortgage rates are going up. Look what's happened to the pricing. But if you step back and you look at it from a 30,000 foot view, if you truly believe the market's never going to rebound, then yeah, it is crazy to invest. But if you look at the historic data and you think that the prices have adjusted enough where you're getting a deal on a property that in a up market, the prices are going to be much, much higher, the cost of purchasing is the same, then you really need to ask yourself, like, are you a real estate investor or not? Because when they did those developments in King West, everybody said they were crazy. And then they said that, they were lucky that they got the land and they fell into it. But really it was somebody that was able to look past the general sentiment. And whenever I see people formulating opinions about the real estate market and what successful people are doing, it's usually coming from people that aren't doing anything. They just like to have an opinion on something so they feel like they're on that team, right?
We got the keyboard warriors.
Don't even start. You guys are on TikTok, right? So I'm sure you see it more than I do.
100%.
It's fascinating. I was going to troll you on one of your posts and be like, you don't need an agent. Home Depot sign $5. I've seen that post.
Oh, no. Our girl Laura put something up there a couple of days ago or yesterday, and somebody was trolling her. And all she said was, put it like the best return on your investment is adding an income suite.
Sure.
Which makes sense. Like
logical
sense, right? And somebody starts trolling you about, no, you're only going to get back this 50% in year one or something like that. And they just kind of went off and were like, dude, I can show you 1 million homes in the last 2 years that if you just added an income suite, what it was worth before and now what it's worth afterwards. Like, black and white numbers.
Divide additional rent by 5%.
Exactly.
And add that to your bottom line.
There you go.
Right? There's a TikToker and a Twitter person that I've seen who I actually thought, was in the finance space and fairly intelligent until I noticed that it was a troll account. It was a trigger account. So she says things to really upset people and like, you can't find a cash flowing property in urban centers. And I'm like, that seems really weird. I Google urban center. It's a population of 50,000 people or more. I'm like, I got cash flowing properties. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But I think people that, and this is a transition, I guess, to media and real estate. There's a lot of people in media using real estate as a buzzword, spreading this information because it gets them followers. And then they sell a course for financing and that's how they make their money.
Well,
right?
we went exactly 6 to 7 minutes and we couldn't get away from talking about media.
Well, it's all integrated, right?
I told everybody that we just wouldn't be able to get away from it. Going back to real estate though, brother. So what are you telling people, the guys and gals that are saying that the sky's falling right now in real estate?
I think I'm trying to ask the right questions to find out where they're at, right?
Okay.
Like, do they need to buy? Do they need to sell? If the answer is yes, it's a very different set of conversations where like, hey, Taylor Hack said this the other day. He's like, do you want it in the face or do you want it in the stomach, right? Because if you have to sell in a down market, you're going to likely lose what you could have gotten back in February or March. But if you bought the thing 10 years ago, you can't look at those numbers. You look at the numbers you bought it 10 years ago and then look at your profit from there. For the other people that are looking to purchase, we're really just making sure that they're lean. We're making sure that they're tight on their estimates. And when we run our pro formas, we're being very conservative. We're not inflating numbers. We're looking at, the true aspects of the property, how it's performing. We're spending a lot of time talking to appraisers. I talked to one 2 days ago. Like, hey, Bobby, what's changed over the last 30 days? How are you guys appraising things? Are you looking at gross income factor? Like, what are you looking at for an ARV? Because if I advise Laura to buy a property, I want to be able to tell her, yeah, you have comps in the last 60 to 90 days, but FYI, the appraisers are being really bullish and they're going 20% under those numbers because it's declining. But if the numbers still make sense, the deal still makes sense. So we're just getting a lot deeper in our analysis. And we've also put up big walls around who we work with. So no longer are we working with our entire database, providing an insane level of service. We're looking to our database and saying, hey, I get you're an investor. Real estate agents are a dime a dozen, but so are investors. You want this level of service? We need to have a conversation that you're working with us and we'll go to bat for you. We'll find the deals. If you're kind of just browsing, now's not the time. Still in our system, we'll provide insane value. We're family. You let me know when you're ready to buy. And I think that's been the biggest difference maker for our team and actually getting out there.
I'm going to ask you to unpack a couple of things there, but I wanted to go back to something that you said earlier, that if you're somebody who's watching right now or listening and you're thinking that the market's not going to rebound, you're right. Just then you probably shouldn't invest. And maybe you can look at investing into, and I don't mean this by like any means, any type of joke, like the cryptos and the stocks and I'm going to be bringing people on, right? Onto the podcast to help people create wealth in those strategies the right way. That's why I'm bringing you on to talk about real estate. But if you're someone who thinks that it's not going to rebound, don't invest into this, because you need to have a stomach to invest into real estate. It's just unfortunate that for the last 12, 14 years, we've been in a very frothy environment when it comes to like, you were in the market in 08, 09. I was as well here in Canada, man. It was like minuscule. It was like 3 months of a dip or something. Not even like it didn't, we really didn't get affected. Right. And so people who said that this is similar to 08, 09, I actually think they're wrong because A, the interest rates never went up as high as and as quickly as they did now. B, there was no money really given to people. This time around, there was money being printed. In Canada, we didn't really print a lot of money in 08, 09. The Americans did. So if you're someone who's savvy, though, and I think that's what you were trying to say, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, that those are the type of investors that you're really working with right now. The guys and gals that are like, okay, hey, I get the interest rates have gone up, but in certain areas, the values have come down. Your cost of actually purchasing is the same. Like, actually, your monthly payment in most cases has only gone up or down by like 50, 60 bucks on the average of an $800,000 to $900,000 home, right? And so as long as you're looking at it, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I also got new listeners and viewers, you need to be looking, and I want your take on this, brother, you need to be looking at real estate in that 10-year window, because we know over time, specifically in the GTA, that over that decade, values have doubled on average for the last 100 years. Now, when you're looking at an investment for yourself, and when you're letting your clients know about it, Justin, what kind of windows are you in? Like, are you in a 2-3 year window? And I don't think it's wrong. It's just my opinion that it should be in and around that 10-year kind of window.
I'm actually thinking about my daughter. A lot of what we're doing and building for her now is for her.
Now that's you as your personal portfolio.
Yeah,
so continue.
That's our personal portfolio. For investors, I think we are looking at a 10-year window. And
she's how old now again?
She's 8.
8. So okay, great.
She's going to be 9.
So you are around that 10 years, man.
It is, yeah. Right? And when I think about investors, though, it's such a wide spectrum. Like, the first question I want to know is, why do you want to invest, right? Like, do you want to do it because it became really cool? I was with Scott McGilvery before this. Yeah. And we were talking about this exact thing. When he started his, networking group, it really wasn't that busy in the beginning because nobody wanted to invest in real estate. He's like, it was a grind to get people excited about it. Then it became super popular. We hit the crest of that where, you would sneeze and somebody would come out as a real estate coach. Like, people were building these businesses more on the glitz and the glamour of it without actually wanting to be in real estate, right? They wanted, even people becoming agents, they wanted selling sunset rather than doing the actual job. Like, they didn't want to do the marketing and sales. They just wanted to play the part because it looks awesome. It looks fun. And I think it's the same thing with investors. Like, why do you want to invest? When you ask me that question from a personal perspective, because I know the tangible impact I'm going to have in some of these communities over the next 10 to 20 years. I know the developers that are buying hundreds of units that aren't going to be approved for 3 to 5 years to 10, but I know what's happening and I know the density is going to be there. For investors, if you're somebody that wants to build a large portfolio of multifamily buildings to have cash flow to pass those down to your kids, great. We can build a business around that. If you're somebody that loves design, Lindsay Gowan's a great example of this. We talked about this recently, where she's like, I don't want to just do investing to make money. I like making money, but I love creating beautiful spaces. And she's like, I feel like I got away from that for a little bit and I'm refocused on creating beautiful spaces. And I could see how she's lit up by that fire. And I think that's what investors should be doing, is finding people. We're like real estate therapists at the end of the day that 100%. Help them come to that understanding and then have the team and the systems in place to help them break down the deals and find the right people. Because I would partner at Lindsay, she's one of my agents, but if she was an investor, with an agent that is aligned with that vision. You want large multifamily buildings, I'd hook you up with Jamie or other people in my organization that focus on that, right?
And they're experts at it.
They are.
Okay, so now we touched on a little bit about if you're thinking about investing and if you're not ready for it, don't do it. Now there's some investors who are, though, in a position where they are in negative cash flow. So I'm in a situation in my portfolio, 3 out of 3 income properties that I have in my portfolio right now are negative, and for a total of in and around about $4,000 a month. Okay,
Is that including the principal recapture? Like, or are you just like after you pay your mortgage?
After I pay my mortgage.
Okay.
So what's happening is that I'm putting in $4,000 a month in total. Okay. So stick with me, and I want to kind of get your thoughts on what I'm going through, but then also what you're probably hearing as well, because we're fielding these calls from our investor clients, and I know you are as well. So I got about $4,000, okay, that I'm putting into these 3 properties. I bought these things anywhere from 7 to 10 years ago, okay? They've all doubled. Couple of them have doubled. The other one's tripled almost, okay? So tons of equity, okay? I've also refied them as well. So I want to preface that because I know some people are going to be like, well, they were probably never cash flowing. Yes, they were. They were cash flowing. The rates are
But
doing
you
what
used some of that money.
I
to
pulled
acquire
out
other
money.
properties,
Like, you know, look, the sign behind you costs some money, right? So I don't know. Maybe I use that money to refi. Anyways, I bought some other properties.
Onlyjazz.com?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the Takhar.com. Somebody took it.
What?
I know. And now they're like, want to charge me.
It was
like,
Simeon. He's going to send that to you.
fucking Seagulls. If it was anyone else here.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I check his credit card. That's awesome. So what I did is I looked at, okay, this is going to cost me, it's costing me $4,000. It's funny that you said November, fall 2023 is when rates are going to drop. That's what I'm thinking, about a year. Okay. That's what I'm guesstimating. So I took this 12 months and said, okay, this is going to cost me 48 G's now for the year. Call it $50,000.
How many properties?
3 properties in total. Okay. $4,000 in that I'm putting in myself every single month for the next 12 months. It's going to be about $48,000. Okay. $50,000 it's going to cost me. Okay. But when I did the math, if I were to sell these properties, the capital gains that I would pay, as well as the fees and the expenses, even though I'm a broker, I still got to pay, right? I wouldn't sell my own property. When I worked out the math, it's actually better. Now, I'm in a situation where I can carry that. So I understand that not everyone would be able to, but I'm in a situation, God bless, that I can carry this, okay? And I'm just, cutting out the organic strawberries and stuff like that at home. That it was actually better for me to continue to hold on to these properties, pay the $50,000, okay? And I understand that the rates might not come down at that time, but I'm going to gamble and hold on to these properties because I know that if I were to sell them, the capital gains on these would be way more.
Crushed, yeah.
I would get crushed in terms of capital gains. So what's your thoughts when you hear that? And what are you telling people that are in a negative cash flow situation right now?
Well, you kind of answered what I would say out of the gate is, can you carry them? Because if the answer is no, then you have to sell them. Like there's no other conversation. Like don't pretend that you're in a situation where you can run for 12 months and pay that cost, but it's a cost of doing business, right? So for example, when the pivot happened in the market, I know my burn rate from a marketing perspective. If I wasn't able to carry that burn rate, I would have turned off all my marketing and I wouldn't spend $1 and it's going to be what it's going to be. The fact that I was able to keep my marketing running means that now my pipeline's full, which means now we've actually passed our goals from last year and we're going into 2023 with almost 10% of my 2023 targeted goals already in escrow because I was able to invest in my business. And I think when people are investors, you have to look at it as a business. I asked you one question at the beginning, are you getting principal recapture? Because my natural state of mind goes to, let's say it's $60,000, easy math, 3 properties, 20 grand a property you got to pay. If there's principal recapture, I'm going to subtract that from my $60,000 because that's part of my mortgage that's being paid off. But again, I'm getting into the weeds.
But that's important because I didn't even calculate that. Because I know that's doing its thing in the back end, but continue.
But that's the point. Yeah. I brought it up because as an investor, you should know how your net effective result is going to be. And again, it's 2 simple questions. Do I keep it or do I sell it? If you have to sell it, sell it. But I wouldn't sell in a down market, because that's when you lose money. Just like your stocks dropped, you only made money if you sold, you only lost money if you sold. You talked crypto, Web 3.0 is not going anywhere. Like the technology is going to survive. what happened had to happen to that market because of what was hyped and what was going on. But it doesn't mean that the technology is going away. And it's one of those things in real estate where what I like about real estate and why I've chosen as an investment vehicle is I can have a tangible impact in that asset, and I treat it like a business. I invest in index funds. I don't really invest in specific stocks because I don't have an impact on how they're running their company. But are you aware of how your business is running? That's what I would ask you as an investor. But if you don't have to sell into down market, don't. And I've talked investors out of selling because I don't think it's the right move in this market.
Well, when I hear people talk about the investing world in real estate as a business, I love that, because I think that will take care of some of the misconceptions that people have about the landlording aspect of investing into real estate, right? So when a tenant doesn't pay, or they break something, or they repaint all the walls black in a condo or something, right? And
he's talking about this space.
Yeah. Not anybody else.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
I'm playing. But what most landlords do is start freaking out, and then that becomes like, part of a horror story. But the smart investors are like, what are you talking about? Like, I budgeted for that. Yeah. Like, I budget for vacancy.
Go to London, Ontario, and buy a student rental property. You're replacing drywall and paint every 8 months.
Well, yeah, like, and the funny thing is, most people who get into the world of student investing, they know they got a budget for that, right?
You're 30%. Like, I can tell you the number. You're 30% higher in maintenance costs because you're doing turnover. Your cash flow is much higher because they're renting per room, and it's extraordinarily higher. It's just business, right?
It's just business, exactly, right? And so thinking about it from like, and having the mindset that this is a business will serve you so well, and it will actually help the return on your investment, because you're going to be able to budget. I always tell the story of like a Shoppers Drug Mart or a Walmart, man. Like, they got external theft, they got internal theft. They don't shut the fucking store down when something like that happens. You know what I mean? They're like, we knew fucking Laura was going to steal something. We knew, you know what I mean? Like, they just budget for these things. And for some reason, not a lot of real estate investors do that. But I know the smart ones do anyways. Grand Bend. Okay, let's nerd out a little bit for our guys and gals that are outside of the Southern Ontario market, and not only just Grand Bend. I want you to touch on London as well. What's some type of properties? And in fact, let's go to London first, and because then I want to ask you something specific about Grand Bend. In London, as an investor, what's like some hidden gems out there, so to speak?
So I think condos actually in London are a great opportunity.
For real?
For price point wise, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can get into condos in the 200 to 300 range. And this is the thing that I find fascinating when people talk about housing, as a commodity, and you can't get in the housing market. It's insane. I'm like, first house I lived in is not somewhere anybody would want to live in, right? And like, I made it work until I could make it work, right? And I think that's a great asset class for somebody that wants to get into a property, maybe improve it. And we have clients that have done it over and over. We have clients that you've referred us that specifically call us and want those buildings. Now, the important part is you talk about how do you get in there. Like, you find an expert. Vic on my team is an absolute monster when it comes to condos. He knows actually how solvent each building corporation is and who's running it.
He actually helped our very own Tyler.
Yeah. And that building, actually, we know that the guy running it is actually a genius. Like, the guy running that board is like a mathematician almost.
Yeah.
And we understand that, again, it's business. We're investing in a solvent corporation. We also are taking other investors there and bringing it almost as like a group investment, because if Tyler's unit gets improved by Laura's unit, gets improved by Jazz's unit, everybody does better, right? So I think condos are a good opportunity. Multifamily was a very hot commodity and almost got oversaturated. We're starting to see it cycle out where you can get into some really good multifamily properties.
And I'm not going to like super duper quote you on this, but just kind of an idea. What can I get? I don't know. When you say multi, are we talking like 10 units, 7 units, 6 units?
Well, I'd say like when I say multi, I'm really talking duplexes to fourplexes.
Okay.
When then you get to commercial multifamily, tons of opportunity. Now, the trick with commercial multifamily is you have to have a plan in place to get those units turned around, which is either getting vacant possession upon you actually owning the property and being able to do renovations and get people in there. There's another misnomer about renovictions. If you follow the RTA, you can't renovict. You can pay tenants, and if they want to leave willingly, they can sign an N11. But there's a lot of deals.
What's rent evict? Sorry, what is
So
that?
it's a term I'm hearing on TikTok where they're like, look at all these landlords rent evicting tenants saying that I'm going to renovate your unit, you're gone. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Like, that's not a real thing, right? For education.
There's like cash for keys. I think that's what you were.
Not at all. Like if you go on Twitter and TikTok, it's complete misinformation. And I've seen news articles talking about rent evictions, and it makes me sick because the media is talking about something without context, and they're misrepresenting how it actually happens. But neither here nor there. You buy an apartment building and it needs to be improved, right? The units really need a new paint, new floor, new bathrooms, new kitchens, whatever. And you can buy these buildings and you can actually improve them dramatically, add to the community structure, and provide great housing. And I think this is where the consumers look at real estate agents and landlords as these greedy, money-grubbing people. I'm like, no. What you need to be aware of is the corporatization of real estate is what you should be terrified of. Government and corporations buying up those properties, that should scare you. Somebody like Laura or Jazz coming in and making a building better and being a good landlord and loving on these people is the best thing that can happen to those communities. So I think a big opportunity is to be somebody that is doing empathetic investing and doing it for the right reasons.
I like that word. I've never heard of that before. Yeah.
I just made it up.
I know.
Scott told me I should have my own dictionary. I'm making up stuff when I was with him too. I think you can do it in such a way that then the community is cheering for you, and you're probably going to actually get more off-market deals because they want you owning more buildings because they see what a good landlord you are.
Off the top of your head, what would a 10-unit building go for? I'm actually being selfish because I'm asking for
Depends
myself.
on where you're going to be. Like we have a 17-unit building for 2.97. A 10-unit building is probably going to trade from 1.3 to 1.6, depending on where it is.
I want to do some quick math. Keep talking. Go.
Really depends on what condition the units are in. What are the rents? That's ultimately what's going to decide the value of the building. But if you can run your math and say, hey, I can improve.
So you're about 170 grand a door.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see, I've seen 230 a door on certain products.
Okay.
REITs.
Are they turned like those 230?
Yeah, they're
a little bit, obviously better than the
for
buck seven. And is that in a better location as well, or?
It's all transient, right?
Got
it. You can go, like we were talking about OEV this morning with the team, Old East Village. A lot of people don't know they're putting a Hard Rock hotel in London in OEV in an area that you'd be like King Street West. You would never put one there. Novacraft Canoes is there. Kellogg's got turned into an amazing location. Like you're investing there now for 10 years. Okay. You're probably getting a property that's 30% cheaper than buying in Old North or Woodfield or an affluent area. But savvy investors go to where the puck is going, 100%. Just like it's the Wayne Gretzky strategy,
analogy. Right? I love it. Yeah. And in that area right now, rents like there's a steady flow of tenants and
rents are bananas. I mean,
okay. Dude, that's all over Southern Ontario kind of thing. But like, we're gonna get what type of class of tenant is it?
You're gonna get like I have friends that own businesses in East London that live there, but and you're gonna get the characters that you walk out and you're like, make sure my car's locked, right?
Yeah.
But that comes to living in proximity to any downtown.
Well, King West is that, man. You get some of that in there.
I mean, you can go to Old North, Woodfield. I lived in West London, and you still had that element, and it's people are dynamic, people are different, and the world's beautiful because we're all very different, right? And I think you have to choose what is your comfort level when it comes to where you're investing, why you're investing, and your upside is going to be mitigated by the risk versus reward. You go into an area that the public can't see as transitioning very early on, you're going to be a first mover. Then what happens, like every other market, is a really cool restaurant opens up, or like a wood table or a clothing store, right? And then the kids go there and it's the coolest spot in the world. And then their parents find out about it and then they feel safe because, well, my kids went there and they didn't die. So then the parents go there. And then now the business is open up to serve the restaurants.
See how smart Justin is?
It takes time, right?
He knows who he was talking to. He said clothing store, and then he looks at Laura as like he just knows his shit. Segueing to, you said it, what you're comfortable with. So I'm very comfortable going where the puck is. Like I'm good with that. 10 years, I can see it. I can actually like literally see it. I'll put my money in those places. The one area where I'm not comfortable, and I got to give it to you because 4 years ago, you're like, Jazz, put some money here. It's going to be a good investment. I was like, dude, I just don't fucking see it. I don't like it. It's not that it's the 10-year play. It's just that I don't like the investment of it, which is short-term rentals in Grand Bend. Okay, so I know you like that kind of style. I now want to get one because
Well, you're there every summer.
Well,
I see
exactly.
you on the strip.
So I
Hey,
might as well.
Jazz here.
Yeah, I'm walking down the strip. I see this guy here, Jazz Takhar. I'm like, who is this?
He's famous.
Yeah. Talk to me about how this whole short-term rental works, specifically Grand Bend, with the season we're going into now. That's what's always scares me.
For sure.
Okay, so let me just make sure I finish my thought there. Is why I don't like investing is because I'm scared shitless when we're going into the season that we're going into right now. It's freezing, it's cold, nobody's chilling on the beach, yada, 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 yada. Who the heck is renting these places?
So first, I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
Do you care about how much money you make in the winter, or do you care about how much money you make, period?
Obviously, period. Yeah.
So again, you need to think about the fact that you're making an insane amount of money in
So I'm
your short
making that
season.
much more money.
It's insane.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we were running stats for commercial real estate when we were looking for QSRs for some commercial plazas. And the hardest thing that we were dealing with QSRs was the seasonality. But the influx of 50,000 people in the summertime to a town of 2,000, when we really started showcasing them the metrics, they realized that when they structure leases, they almost have to amortize the months and create a net effective lease for the entire year. You front load it on the summer months and then you download it on the back months. I can tell you people that run rental properties and investment properties in the Grand Bend, Lambton Shores area, they actually make all their money and cash flow in the summer, and then everything else is gravy. Interesting thing about that is the shoulder seasons, if you put a hot tub in your property, you're actually going to rent it for significantly more because you'll go shoulder season, you'll get till probably end of October, and then you'll actually be able to start a little bit earlier. Wintertime is beautiful in Grand Bend, like snow covered. Pinery Park is one of the most significant ecological provincial parks in the country.
So I don't think I went.
Exactly.
Okay.
You don't know. It's
Yeah.
consumer education, right?
Yeah.
It's 3,300 acres, 3 different ecosystems. I was in Tennessee and there was a ranger there who was like freaking out because he's like, I came up there to study coyotes and oh my gosh, you live there. And I'm like, yeah, like we go snowshoeing there in the wintertime. There's snowmobiles going up and down the highway. There's winter activities. The biggest problem with Grand Bend is educating people that they're not just a seasonal town because the beach is a 20 out of 10. That's the problem because it's so known as a beach community. Now you're starting to see the infrastructure where you have Obsidian Group and you have a lot of institutional developers that have bought up the strip. They're investing millions.
My favorite bar is right at the edge of that beach, exactly where I bumped into you right across the street. I forget
and it's
the name. It's packed.
It's packed.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when you talked about the shoulder seasons for a second, that's October-ish to
I would say
May,
it's September.
April?
Like Labor Day is when we shut down.
Okay.
But the locals know it's the best time of year.
Okay.
Because it's not as busy. The beach is amazing. And the lake stays warm. That's the funny thing about lakes because it's a controlled body of water. It retains heat. So the fall is actually beautiful. And I remember December 17th, 2 years ago, I think it was, going for a run on the beach. It was that beautiful. 17 degrees outside. Right? Like we'll get slammed.
Well, we get lucky like that sometimes.
You do, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think let's talk about short-term rentals for a second. Here's something that's happening in Grand Bend that affects a lot of people is they're putting in regulations for short-term rentals that are going to be implemented in February. $500 for registration. There's rules around how many people you can have and parking and so on and so forth. It's a business, right? So now we're factoring all of those into our assessments. A lot of the people that got in early, they've made so much money on the properties that they can make the adjustments. Maybe they sell, maybe they keep it. New investors, they're just changes their pro forma a bit. But the long
$500 like one time, Justin?
Yeah, one time. It's like
that's
a rental
joke.
license.
Yeah,
right?
whatever. Okay, that's not that big of a deal.
It's more the control mechanisms, right? Now, I told them actually at a business meeting that they should bring everybody to the table, and if they want institute, fine. And this is the funny thing about Grand Bend. It's always been a rental town. Like, it's always been a place where people go to cut loose and have fun, and I understand the community aspect of it because I live there, right? It's a community that I actually spent time in. But there's always been a balance of solvent owners, and there's always going to be an egg or two that aren't. And those people need to be addressed. But I still think that there's a way to integrate, like I said, empathetic investing into communities like Grand Bend that have a long-term strategic vision and are growing. And the last thing I'll say on the Grand Bend market is, as an investor, would you have invested in Muskoka in the early 2000s if you could have bought places there that now are renting for $25,000 a week? If you believe that that's accurate, Grand Bend is heading in that direction. I know one place that's just rented for $15,000 with $7,500 a week, and the guy bought it under $2 million and actually just flipped it and probably made $1 million on it, right? And I think there's not much more waterfront property in the area, period. And it's what happened in Muskoka is likely gonna happen in the Grand Bend area.
Just really quickly, would you suggest do I need to go to like a 5-6 bedroom, or can I keep it to like a 3 to 4? What's kind of the sweet spot for the best return?
There's different products. And again, I know the communities intimately, and I can tell you there's certain streets I wouldn't buy a Airbnb on because I know what the neighbors are like, and I want to make sure that we actually serve that community. I want to make sure I'm helping add to it and not detract from it. And these are the things you'll never find online. You can go on MLS, you can look at sold data all you want. You may not know that what you're buying is a bag of trouble. And then 2 streets over, it's ideal and it's perfect. You can walk to the beach.
I felt like the area that I stay in every year is like really nice.
It used to be called the jungle. So like you used to drive through there and kids would be like walking around on prom parties and just mayhem, right?
Right. And now?
And now it's much more upscale. A lot of those cottages that were derelict, I guess as Zoolander would say, falling apart, got bought up, and now they're turning into luxury multifamily properties. Some people are buying them as cottages for their families. Right. And I do think that's where a bit of the back and forth comes when you're dealing with STRs is, community wanting more housing and feeling like investors are driving the housing crisis out of whack, when in reality, it's not that. It actually has more to do with zoning and policy control and the actual amount of development that's happening to deal with the influx of people interested in the area. Right. Because people are going to continue to buy cottages. They're going to buy investment properties and they're going to buy homes. We just need to find a way to coexist.
Brother, I want you to talk about what you're excited about with your actual business and brokerage right now. For everybody who's watching and listening, this guy ain't hard to find. Just Google his name, Justin Konikow, Prime Real Estate. Like it's he's on all the socials and stuff like that. But I want to hear from you. Like, what are you excited about, man? Coming up with this in the new year.
Yeah, I'm really excited at the core team that we're building. We've really been working hard on refining the real estate aspect of our business and what prime real estate is. In 2023, we're going to make some big announcements and some big changes, but I really think prime has become bigger than just me, right? My wife and I founded it. We built the SOPs, the systems. We started the production company, the agency. I was the production. I was the agency. Now we have people that I think we can cut loose and let build the company and really allow Shannon and I to jump more into the operations, the marketing, and the leadership side of things. I'm excited for my personal business because I plan on staying in production, which you always give me the gears about, but I love being belly to belly with consumers. So I am in the field with my team. I picked up my shovel. I'm prospecting in the office. I'm having fun with it, like really getting belly to belly with people. But I think the most exciting thing is the walls we're putting up around access to us. You saw how far I went on Clubhouse and everything else. I'm free coaching to the world.
I know.
For about a year.
At 6:30 in the morning every morning? You still do it?
Yeah, Breakfast with Champions. But again, it's gotten me on stage with guys like Seth Godin, built relationships with Glenda and Andy and some incredible people. Now that that's there, I think we're putting up big walls around who we let into the ecosystem. I wouldn't do a podcast like this. I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
For you, I would.
For sure.
Right? For certain people, I will make the effort because I truly believe in a rising tide lifts all ships. And what you guys are doing is awesome, and your family. And even though we don't talk all the time, when we do, it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're doing that. Okay, yeah, perfect. Like we're both still on that trajectory, 100%. Right? So I'm excited to be around cool people doing cool things.
Well, I love you. I really mean that. I say it in every single podcast that we do together, man. It really is such a cool sight to see. We were talking off air, like we've been saying that we wanted to grow our teams for a while, but like you see it all happen. There's all these, obviously the viewers and listeners can't see the crew behind the cameras that make us look good, but it's just really, really cool. Like every single time I see that you're announcing a new agent, and I think you just brought someone new on not too long ago.
Brought some killers on, yeah. And again, access to come on. We don't hire. Like we actively, we have a waiting list. The last 2 people took 3 years to get over to Prime.
Yeah, see?
And it's just reason we did that is
selective on who you want to bring. They're gonna be wearing your brand, man, and that's important.
We think of it like Nike, right? So like you put a Nike swoosh on a specific athlete, that comes like it means something, and that's what we're aiming for, right?
Well, it's just a big kudos to you, to your beautiful wife, and to the rest of the team, my man. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate you having me on, Jazz.
100%. We'll give you one of these and one of these, brother.
Awkward handshakes.
Thank you.